Hi there, my name is Nina Goradia, and today I want to talk about the difference between our inner critic and our inner intuition. So sometimes we'll have this dialogue happening in our mind, and we may be identifying with it, which means we think that we are it, but we're never it. We are the one that is observing it, because if we were it, how could we observe it, right? Who's the one observing it? So if you can observe it, then you're the one watching it. And with this inner critic, this inner voice that may be very critical to us, oftentimes it's an internalized voice from messages we received when we were younger, whether that's from within the home, whether that's from school, society, or just stuff that we saw on TV. We're kind of these amazing sponges when we're young, and we start absorbing these messages consciously or unconsciously. And so we want to start noticing this internal voice when it arises and start, be skeptical of it, question it. Like, instead of blindly thinking that it's you and that it's true and buying into it and then following its instructions, we want to start asking, like, where did I hear that from? Where's that from? And what we can start to see is a lot of it is a young voice. It's a voice that didn't know better. So we adopted a lot of the stuff when we were young and we didn't know better. But the people who said those things to us also adopted it when they were young. It's their young voice, the one who doesn't know. It's the ego, the coping mechanisms, the defense mechanisms that the ego employs. It's trying to just figure it out. It's trying to wing it, trying to help us not feel in a particular moment, trying to help us survive childhoods. The assumptions that were made to believe the critical voice, the assumptions were that of a child misinterpreting the truth of who they are. All of us have done this, so there's nothing wrong in doing this. This is basically what happens before the age of 8. Our brains are wired to think that everything that happens to us is our fault in some ways. So when I say it's a misinterpretation, I'm not trying to fault the child, but what I'm trying to say is it's not true. These critical thoughts about yourself, they're not true. So as an adult, we need to disprove them. We need to question them consciously. But it's a misinterpretation because our perception was limited as a child. Even now, it's still limited as an adult. Just being human, we're limited in that way. But our perception was so limited as a child, being fresh in the world, that these misinterpretations and these assumptions are very common. And they're usually about ourselves. So we want to question those things and recognize this internal voice. It's not an authority in any way. It's absolutely like a winging it sort of self-defense mechanism that arose to serve in a given moment, but it's not helpful or sustainable over the course of a lifetime. It doesn't work anymore. And so starting to discern between, what is my true inner voice versus this inner critic? This true inner voice, believe me, it takes a long time to be able to discern some of this. I'm still working on the discernment after many years. So just be really gentle with yourself and patient with yourself as you embark on this. But usually this internal voice is quieter and it doesn't have any agendas. And it's trying to, or it's not trying to do anything, actually. It's just there, and it's not justifying anything. It's not trying to justify a behavior, an action, nothing. The way that like a stronger inner egoic voice might be trying to justify and prove and avoid and distract and, all these things. This voice is just like at peace and content. And it's just there, and it might even be like a whisper, and it's like, yeah, I just want that. Oh yeah, okay, what about that? It's usually quick. It's usually soft, and it's not trying to prove anything to you. It's not even trying to convince you. You can take it or leave it. But that oftentimes can be more accurate in terms of intuition. And oftentimes that voice is, and it's not a voice necessarily, it's kind of like your thoughts. Some people hear something, but oftentimes it's just like, I'm perceiving it the way I would have thought, but the quality of it is different. Like, you know how you can think about a man's voice in your mind and a woman's voice in your mind, and you're not audibly hearing anything, but you hear it differently in your mind. So it's kind of like that. And so this often is accessible as the strong egoic part of the mind starts to calm down and settle. And we're in a meditative state, or we're, firmly connected with our bodies. And there's enough quiet, there's enough space and silence for this voice to then be heard. And so I'm curious if you've had any experiences like this where you've gotten an intuition and it's come true a few days later, or it helped you in a given moment, or if you're able to discern between these two. Feel free to share below, and I'll see you next time.